Russia.
Right.
He did bring up Russia too. Do you want to address the Ukraine predictions that he was wrong with?
Yeah. His outlook for Russia in general is not great, but maybe better because Russia is at least still going to have the ability to feed its people and to have enough oil for electricity, etc. With the Ukraine war, the Ukrainians keep getting supplies from the U.S. Up until now. They've received, I don't know how many billions in arms at this point. So that is helping them fight back against Russia. And Russia apparently doesn't really have the capacity to conduct a
modern ground war.
Ground war. So, so what did he say here? He predicted that
Ukraine would take back Crimea.
Yeah, so that remains to be seen, I think.
Well, and then the most recent update I heard from him on the Ukraine war is that at this time of year, everything has frozen over, and then there's going to be a period of mud, and then after the period of mud, things are going to heat up again. And what happened right before the freeze is that Russia, and I mean, take this with a grain of salt with the fog of war and all that, all that sort of stuff. But Russia appears to have bungled this offensive so badly, particularly with their supply chains and their follow-up, is that so many Russians have had to run away and leave equipment behind that the most recent equipment capture of the by the Ukrainians of Russia. I can't remember the multiple. It's something like 4 times or something more than the entire West has given them to date. It's some. I mean, I don't remember if it was 4 or what, but it was multiple times more than the West has given to date. And he said during this period of freeze, they're going to have 3 or 4 or whatever months to integrate and train on this new equipment. So it's really, really up in the air right now. And he also mentioned that one of the reasons that the West is so voraciously supporting the Ukraine to the point where, and I don't know who the commenter was. He says he's pro-Russian. I mean, I'm pro-Russian based on the fact that the news media is just shoving Ukraine down my throat, right? But when you look at Peter Zeihan's analysis, which is that what Russia is doing, I mean, it's multifaceted, but one of the most important parts of it is the fact that Russia is attempting to extend to its historical choke points, because Russia, unlike Europe, is flat, and if somebody wanted to invade, there's no way to create a border, or where the movie 300, we're going to guard this passage with 300 people and hold off the army of Persia because the passage, they can't do that. People could just roll over Russia, and in modern times with modern vehicles, you could drive pretty fast. So since the fall of the Soviet Union, they've lost those choke points, and Peter Zeihan is arguing that since Putin took power, I think in 2001, he is super focused on getting those choke points back. Now, in the Ukraine, there are none of those choke points. All the choke points that
Putin was already 99 already, and one of the first things that he did, or his claim to fame at the time, was the what's the region called? Chechnya.
Yeah.
I mean,
that was one of the choke points.
And Chechnya is a very important location for Russia. It's right where the Caspian Sea is. That's where the oil comes from. So, just to belabor that point.
Right. And so, none of these choke points are in Ukraine. They're beyond Ukraine. They're like in Poland doesn't border Ukraine, but they're like Moldova, for example. And so, what the West understands is that Russia is not intending to stop at the Ukraine. They plan on capturing the Ukraine and jettisoning off from there. Now, the issue then becomes, Ukraine's not in NATO, like we all frickin' know at this point, but the countries beyond there, some of them are. And what happened when Russia does this ground war and bungles it up so badly, apparently the West went, Russia doesn't know how to fight a modern war. And then they went, if we get in a modern ground war with Russia, we're gonna roll their asses. And then they went, if we roll their asses, then their only option is nukes. And so in order to prevent that from happening, the theater has to be kept in Ukraine, which isn't a NATO ally. Now,
well, yes,
I don't know how much everybody believes that to its fullest extent, but that is a very interesting way of looking at it.
Maybe the compromise will end up being Russia takes some parts of eastern Ukraine, and the western part of Ukraine remains pro-Europe, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not they're going to join NATO, maybe they'll become neutral. Who knows? But a lot of the things you're saying there in terms of, we realized Russia can't fight a modern ground war. We have to
take with a grain of salt.
Yeah, everything that Peter Zeihan says, I realize that now. We have to take it with a grain of salt, so apply some of your own thinking to it. I mean, you always should do that, but he provides such a big picture. That's why we appreciate what he's done, because we've been trying to get a sense of the Quiglian big picture analysis of where we're going now. So for that, he's helpful. He does have good understanding of trade, I think. He does have some good understanding of geopolitics, geological factors that lead to success and or failure, and demographics as well. So for the big picture, I give him a pass. He's going to make mistakes on the details here and there. We'll get to his take on cryptocurrency, for example.